Hi, welcome to Univariety Webinar series, and the topic for today is entrepreneurship, introduction and tips for startup. Now, I have prepared a presentation for this topic, and I would like to share this with you. So, in this presentation, my main goal is to encourage you students to think big, to solve a problem, and hopefully to motivate you guys enough to start your own startup. Okay, so I would like to introduce myself. As I said, I'm currently pursuing computer engineering at JEE, and I've been coding since I was 15. From the very beginning, the sheer ability to change the lives of millions of people just by writing code on my old Pentium computer every night got me excited beyond words. Now, I've always loved what I do. Since then, I've co-founded a startup and a company, Edge 819. And I've worked with companies in and outside of India and created apps and softwares with multiple millions of users. Now, one of my top apps, that is Extreme Personal Assistant, which was inspired by Iron Man Jarvis, was the app that I developed when I was still in school. And that is now the second most popular app on the Google Play Store after Google Assistant. Now, why am I telling you this? I want you to find something that you love, that you are passionate about. Work on it as hard as you can, as long as you can, no matter what everyone else says. Okay, so as the presentation is about startup, let me start by introducing and telling what is the definition of startup. Now, when we talk about startups, what comes into your mind? Let me tell you what comes into my mind. Small companies founded by college dropouts. That's at least what I thought before finding my own venture. And guess what? It's not like that. Startups have nothing to do with size. A startup is a company working to solve a problem where the solution is not obvious and success is not guaranteed. Now, when you look at these companies, Uber, Ola, Zomato, Flipkart, I want you to ask these questions to yourself. What do these companies have in common? What do these companies do and why are they so successful? Uber is more than 150 billion US dollars this year. And in October of 2018, Zomato raised over 210 million from Alibaba. Walmart is the world's largest retailer and has been losing in competition to Amazon since years now. To survive, Walmart, which is an American company by the way, invested 16 billion US dollars into Flipkart for a 77% stake in the company last year. At that point, Walmart pretty much owns Flipkart. Now, so what does this metrics tell us? From these numbers, we gain insights that how important startups and entrepreneurs are to the society and how the startups upgrade our standard of living. So how are startups different from a company? Startups focus on only one industry and strive to disrupt them, while companies, which I mentioned earlier, took an industry having problems, found an untraditional way, but an innovative solution, and with the right execution, they changed how the industry operated at its core. And well, on the other hand, small businesses and companies are driven just by profitability and long-term value, while startups, which are focused on top-end revenue and growth potential. Startups can lose a lot of money at the very beginning, but once they capture the market, they are pretty much on the path of success, while companies, on the other hand, are driven solely on profits. So now I want you to take, to take the previous example of Amazon and Flipkart and show you guys how startups and companies are different. Amazon, as I said, since it was founded, actually lost in revenue for the first couple of years. It had to raise venture funding to move and continue in its business. But at the same time, Amazon was doing what no other company was. It took an established industry, which was retail, and which was having problems, solved its very prominent problems, which were people needed to get out of the house to buy stuff. And Amazon solved this problem with one-day delivery. And now you no longer had to drive out to the nearest shopping mall to get your friend a gift. Everything could be done at the comfort of your doorstep. Now, Walmart, which is a traditional retailer, lost its customer, but even then they did not accept. They refused to change and stuck with their old business model. This made Walmart bleed money, and once Amazon was popular, Walmart had to shut hundreds of its stores and let thousands of its employees go. And what about Amazon? Well, Amazon saw an increase of 204% in its revenue in last 12 years, and the net revenue of this company was 2.54 million US dollars. So getting on with some of the challenges that are faced by entrepreneurs. So let me walk you through some of the unique challenges, and I'll not talk about the technical problems related to registering an LLC or a private limited company. I'm sure you can find it everywhere else. I would rather like to use this time to paint an outline of the misconceptions as experienced by startup founders in their early days. First one is finding the gap. Understandably, most entrepreneurs seek to meet a critical need in society that can be fulfilled by offering a product or a service. Well, the product or the service is planned well enough to meet the immediate need. It automatically leads to success. However, it is exceedingly hard to avoid the Me Too trap and to do the product better or different from everyone else. Meaning, it is very easy to make a product that already exists. But startups do not only need to build a product and deliver it, but they need to add innovation to it, do something different from the competitors. Only that way your product can be superior to the competitors in the market. Limited resources. Now, while building a startup, your money tree will take months and sometimes years to sprout. And one of the most valuable lessons that we can learn is that there are several tools and apps for various functions that have grown all over the internet to help us overcome this resource limitation that startups acutely suffer from. For example, many softwares needed for professional creative work like photo or video editing, programming languages, and their IDEs, account keeping softwares are all available for free if you know where to look. Now, 10 years earlier, you couldn't find anything like this on the internet. Now, once you learn managing your resources effectively, you'll never be under budgeted. The third one is raising funds. So raising funds with investors may be seen as the direct combat to the limited resources challenge I outlined on the previous slide. But as it happens, funding for startups is more abundant than you think. You can easily get a funding of your project if you have the right product for the right audience and the right execution. So data shows that the biggest well-established ventures have better possibility of attracting investors. This means that you just need to have a working product, a successful and profitable business model, and a market for your products before you approach any potential investor. Entrepreneurs should learn to treat these meetings with investors as learning opportunities, even if they do not get funded. Each and every question which is asked by an investor can be an issue in your business strategy, an issue with your product, or a gap in your shipping or customer retention or anything else. You need to mark all these questions as important, and after the investor meetings, you need to work on all of that questions, because as a founder of Deal Dash, William Wolfram said that investment meetings are free advice, and a founder should walk away with ideas on what their gaps and next step should be. In 97% of your investment meeting, you will not be able to secure fundings, but what you will get is data from very experienced investors on how your business should be run. Too much advice. Now, when you are startup founders, you will come up forward with tips and techniques to make it work. As much as founders need free advice, it is critical that they aggressively glean the ones they stick to. In the words of Laxco, the CEO of Rival Games, if we listen to everyone, we would be chasing our own tails. So don't continue following each and everyone's advices, especially if they are not experienced at what they are speaking. And sometimes this may also include your customers. So this is one of the more important slides for high school students. The question lies, does this mean that forget about preparing for exams? Absolutely not. Let me explain why. When you see this slide, these pictures, what does come into your mind? Let me tell you the words that pop into my head: billionaire, hardworking, crazy genius, successful, and of course, as the heading says, dropouts. But are they really? Like, I've been seeing thousands of Facebook and Instagram motivational quotes about Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, and which says a single sheet of paper cannot decide my future, or something like this. I failed in some subjects in my exam, but my friend passed in all. Now he's an engineer in Microsoft and I'm the owner. As motivational as this sounds, Bill Gates was always competitive and scored the highest in his class throughout his school days. Bill actually scored 1590 out of 1600 in his SATs. That is just 10 marks less. And also, he was awarded an honorary law degree from Harvard University in 2007. So technically, he does have a degree. And similarly, with Mark Zuckerberg, he scored full marks in his SATs. And as it is famously known that Mark dropped out of Harvard to continue the development of Facebook, it is not, and he did not complete his degree at that time, but only a few people know that 12 years later he completed his degree from Harvard, gave his commencement speech to the batch of 2017. Now, why did he do that? He's worth 75 billion US dollars right now. He did because completing the degree matters. Elon Musk, I know most of you know him, is one of the most visionary, ambitious founders in the world, more than Steve Jobs, more than anyone else. He has founded numerous companies and wants to take humanity to Mars. He's actually thinking big. He started his career with the creation of Zip2 in 1995. It was Google Maps at that time, except Google Maps did not yet exist. He then proceeded to find PayPal, and then which was one of the world's most popular payment system. And then he proceeded to sell the company in July of 2002 for $1.5 billion. And he personally got $180 million from the acquisition. And this time, the quote in the slide is not false. He did invest $100 million in SpaceX, $70 million in Tesla, and $10 million in solar cities. He actually needed to borrow money for rent. And each and every company he founded has been successful. Tesla is gaining more popularity in America and Europe very fast. Elon broke the notion of electric cars will always be slow. They will not have range and are very ugly cars. Tesla Model S100 can go 0 to 60 in 2.28 seconds. For comparison, Bugatti Chiron takes 2.5 seconds, and that's a $3 million car. Now, with his other companies like SpaceX, he wants to use reusable rockets, and he has already tied up with companies like NASA to send food shipments to the international space stations. And he has already made multiple launches in this year. Elon is again one of the richest founders in this country, and there are always people saying that he got lucky and he was never good at school. It is again wrong. Elon always has been reading books since he was a kid, and he has been scoring one of the he was one of the topper in his classes. So if there is no need of marks in finding a successful startup, why am I recommending you to study, give your best in the exams? That is because JEE and NEET are two of the world's most competitive exams. The hard work you do right now will level you up both mentally and physically. Every work you do after completing this phase of life, irrespective of the marks, will seem easy, especially finding and running a company with hundreds and thousands of employees. This from outside may look cool, but there is a lot of work, lot of sleepless nights behind the scenes, and lot of sacrifices founders need to make to have this happen. This phase of life you are in right now will get you ready for that. Okay, so my speaking part is over. I would love to take questions right now. Questions I have is from Priyanka Jain, which kind of startups are more ideal in the coming future. Now, being from an IT background, I would say that AI, artificial intelligence, IoT or Internet of Things is becoming more and more popular in today's times. Elon Musk, as I was speaking about earlier, owns OpenAI, which is a company based on AI, and another company which is named Neuralink. What they are doing is essentially planting neural nodes inside your head so that it will actually help you think better. The next question by Priyanka Jain is, can startup reap more profit than companies in upcoming future? Absolutely. As I said, companies like Uber, what they did, they actually had to get funding in their initial stages. So once they secure funding and they have a very great business model, they can in the future they can just scale their business to take huge amounts of profits. And the great part is, since they are working on a niche industry, they can actually compete with. They have no competition. No other startups will be able to compete once they are actually mature enough. For example, there exists Ola and Uber right now. If I were to make a startup which was let's say a taxi business just like Ola or Uber, I would fail because they have grown such big in size that there is no competition for them. Question from her is, what all risks are there that one should consider? So apart from the risks I said earlier, I really think that management of money is one of the more riskier things in startups and companies. Once you get funding, founders tend to not organize their money trees and end up losing money and capital of their startup. So I would really advise you to plan out maybe 5 or 6 years at the beginning where your money goes, and actually organize it so that you are able to fund your company till the next round of your startup. So one of the questions from David Solanki is, JEE and NEET are a part of medical courses. How does it affect to commerce section? So when I'm talking about JEE and NEET, I'm not specifically targeting engineering students. What I mean is each and every student that is going through high school right now. And see, there is a certain mentality that Indian students have a higher level of education, and they need to study. And there is this force from parents, but actually, it is students tend to think that that is negatively affecting their dreams. But I would like to say that once they complete their high school, they'll know that the pressure they are in right now will help them mature in future, and especially if they are aspiring to create a startup and starting a company. Okay, there is a question from Ryan International School, Faridabad. What is the money backup we should go with? So, as I said, you need to create a business strategy, a money trail from advance. Now, a few of the solutions for money are obviously approaching investors. Many of the entrepreneurs seek to get a loan, but I would never advise that. And one of the best things you could do is make a product before you think of investing money or asking for friends or investors for money. And by product, what I mean is just a unique selling proposition, just a prototype of what you're thinking, and then take that prototype to investors. Or also, if you are able to create a finished product that is to be able to launch into the market, I would advise to launch that product to the market, bootstrap the money, that is, take the money that you're getting and reinvest it in your startup. So that way you will own 100% of your startup, and you will not have to go to investors for asking for revenue. Okay, the next question from Priyanka Jain says, what all challenges are faced by while starting a new startup or a company? Okay, I already answered that. What are the considerations that we should seek for a new startup? Okay, for starting a new startup, I would really recommend to think everything through, make a very great, solid business strategy, and just have a look where your money goes. So, if you are trying to sell a product P, you need to make a chart where you figure out that how much money will go into marketing, how much money will be going into creating the product, and how much money will you annually spend to for managing and to retain your company. And once you get that fixed, then you can proceed towards making the product itself. And for the product, you should study the market. You should once again start with the users, what they want, what are their problems, because everything, see, when we talk about a product in a company, what companies do is companies seek profit. Once they find out that there is a profit in certain sector, in certain industry, they just rush to create a product. What startups do is find the problem first. They go to the user first, consumer first, and then they build their business on top of it. So I would advise to connect with people in the niche that you are trying to make the product in, and then connect with them, ask them questions about the problems that they are facing, and organize your product around that issues that they are saying. And once you get a solid product, a solid business strategy, and bootstrapping or any source of money that won't let you down, I'm sure that the business plan that you are going for will 99% succeed. Okay, what is people working as YouTuber and bloggers? Are they also starting a startup? Are they also starting a startup? What I think she means is, are YouTubers and bloggers also startups? I would say that no, because as I said, startups really focus on an industry and try to disrupt them. While we talk about YouTubers and bloggers, they may be doing something unique in their particular niche, but I don't think they are actually trying to solve a problem. A question from Ryan International School, Greater Noida. How do you figure out loopholes in your business model? So that's a great question again. So one of my slides said that investor meetings are one of the more important sections of your stages of your startup career, because the questions that investors will ask you there are probably the most pitfalls that entrepreneurs stumble upon. So they are 90%, if you are not able to answer those questions on their terms at that meeting, that makes it sure that there is some problem in that area. So investors will ask questions related to your products, your market, your USP, unique selling proposition. And if you are not clear about that, that means that you need to work on that section of your startup. So that is a great place to find the loopholes in your business model. Question from Ryan International School, Faridabad. What is the best accessible and profitable platform for new startups? Android, iOS, or Windows? So I would say that there is no such platform for working. So because people are comfortable with their own operating systems, but I've also seen companies struggling with employees which are comfortable with MacBooks and Apple's ecosystem, while that startups cannot necessarily afford hundreds of or thousands of Mac Pros. So what they do is they build a Hackintosh, and Hackintosh is what is essentially a PC that is what we say an assembled computers, and they install Apple's operating system over it. So that is a very great way to manage resources when you need to lean on a particular platform. But I would say that there is no necessarily a preference to operating systems when it comes to startup. Just get what most of your employees figure they are comfortable with. Okay, great question from Priyanka Jain. Is it necessarily? It is necessary that startup business are always successful as that of Bill Gates and Elon Musk? I would say no. Startups are, there is a less than 10% chance of a startups actually succeeding, just like Bill Gates and Elon Musk. Actually, these are the stories that we know. There are behind this, there are several founders and CEOs that have led their startups and that have had to dissolve that. It all matters upon how great your dedication is, how good your business strategy is, and how lucky you are at till a limit. So I would say that no, there is less than 10% chance till your for your startup getting succeeded, but you can increase that probability by following the steps about managing money, about managing your business, about your product, and just managing your resources. Okay. What would be the marketing strategy by Ryan International School, Rohini, New Delhi? So I would say that one of the best investment marketing strategies is social media again. Gary Vaynerchuk, who is the CEO and founder of Vayner Media, his one of the best tribes and his best advice is go for social media. You can approach hundreds, thousands, and millions of users just at a small budget. At the budget of what you would spend on a hoarding board, you can actually potentially reach millions and millions of users on social media. And you can also track how many conversions you get. And for tech industries like what I am managing, social media is one of the best solutions out there. Okay, another question by Priyanka Jain is, excluding IIT sector, is it necessary that one can do startups in business in other field also? So no, startups are not limited on only on IT industries. Since I belong to an IT industry, it is easier for me to build a startup over there. But it actually does not only limit to IT industry. You can pick up any industry and build a startup there. It's just these key points that you need to touch. Those are the niche industry that you need to approach, the problems that you need to solve, and how you deliver your product. There should be unique. Sorry. Okay. One of the questions from Ryan International School, New Delhi, is how to get along with the latest market trends. So again, follow social media, keep your company's social media accounts active, and just keep yourself updated at social media. Social media is a very great place to connect with the users, keep yourself updated with the latest trends, and just to get one-on-one with the users. Many companies like Apple, for example, they ignored social media for many years, and at last they started advertising on social media. I guess in last 5 months you can find Apple's page on Twitter and Facebook. You'll find no post there. They'll just use the social media account for advertising. So even a huge company, $1 trillion company like Apple, has to use social media to get in touch with users. So social media has to be a great part about your startup. And since this is the millennial era, I would recommend that you get on social media. It is one of the best places to start. Ryan International School, Rohini, New Delhi. What should be the marketing strategies? As I said, social media, reach the users one-on-one. You can use email marketing. You can use ads. Those are one of the more cheaper alternatives out there. And for startups, those are the best alternatives out there. Okay, question by Priyanka Jain. What is the minimum age to start a business startup? So, practically speaking, there is no minimum age to start a new startup. What that means is if you want to pursue an idea and change something in the market or build a product, that's what startup is. It doesn't require you to register a company. I've been programming for multiple companies even before I started my own startup. I had been publishing apps on my own name before I registered a startup. It is not mandatory for you to register a startup, take client meetings, take investor meetings. You just need to solve a problem and make a product that is loved by the users that users actually use. Okay. Question from Ryan International School, Faridabad is how important is Python software in software development? So I've been getting this question for very long. Python, I would say, is the third most popular language all over the world right now, and is the one of the languages that you would want to learn because Python is very easy. It is a scripting language. Python has many applications in wide industries. For example, you could do machine learning, artificial intelligence, neural networking, deep learning, CNNs. You could do implement various libraries. You could run Python on Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, Windows, cell phones, everywhere. So each and every technology and industry needs Python to run. Even Netflix and Twitter's backends were built on Django on Python. So Python does have marketing needs in market. And if you are finding your own startups, I would say that yes, Python should be one of the top learning languages you could have on your list. So a very excellent question from Rohit Jaiswal, who says, did sites like freelancers and Upwork help your startups to grow? It is a very great question. Yeah, so startups like Fiverr, Freelancer have been getting popularity very much lately, and I would say that yes, that is one of the most effective platforms that you could startups could go on. See, you could get thousands and potentially like hundreds and thousands of developers, very creative professionals out there. And the great thing is, if you visit Fiverr right now, you can get freelancers doing huge amount of works just in $5 with quality. So since there is so much competition on those platforms, developers and freelancers are like they need to be very competitive. They need to be very professional. They need to be very great in their quality of work that they give. So it is a very great opportunity for startups. If you are a startup and if you are hiring locally, then I would say don't. You try Freelancer or Fiverr because those are one of the best few websites, even Top Lancer, and there are like numerous websites that you could go to, upwork.com, where you can get great freelancers doing your work for you, and you'll be able to connect them. You won't have to keep track of time for them. You won't have to pursue them like there are problems in contacting freelancers which are out of state, so you won't have any of those problems. Uh, Another great question from Rohit is, what are the problems that you faced in your startup and how did you solve it? So since I come from a technical background, I was able to set up everything related to websites, related to applications. So that was easy for me. But the technical and tougher part was creating a startup, actually incorporating the startups. As I am from technical background, I do not understand taxes. I do not understand how the incorporation, how the registration works, how the getting of shares work. So I needed to hire, and everyone will need to hire a CA, a bookkeeper, a board meeting organizer at some point in their lives. But since I was not very educated at that particular front, I let that go. And the annual compliances, which I was talking about earlier, I actually failed to do so in the early stages of my startup. So I had to pay a penalty. So I would recommend that if you are going to actually register your company, I would say you sit with a very experienced CA. You sit with them, talk about taxes, talk about every annual compliance that you'll have to fill, and then organize everything upfront till 3 to 4 years with them. So you do not have any issues related to your company itself. Okay, question from Priyanka Jain. Does a startup business need IT technical? I'm guessing she means IT technical person. So yeah, I think that each and every startup needs people who have technical knowledge. You will continuously need help in managing your websites, your apps, your social media accounts, your ads. Because in 2019, if you are a startup, you need to have an online presence, and that to strong users. 90% of users you'll get is from internet, from online, no matter what industry you are in. The ratio may stagnate, but more of the your users will reach you through your online presence if you have one. So I highly recommend to get an IT person. Question from Shraddha Lora. She asks, what problems have you tried to solve with your startup? Okay, so talking about one of my latest startups, its name is Aapka Garage. And what it does is, for example, you have a broken car or you have a broken vehicle in the middle of nowhere. What would you do? So there are no companies or no startups approaching this problem. So we thought that if we could build an app that would allow users just to locate themselves and to manage to add a service order from wherever they please, they would just have to send the location and send the order, and the professionals from Aapka Garage would travel into the user's location, fix their vehicles. If there is a major problems on their vehicles, we'll be giving them an alternate vehicle or alternate car of their preference, and we'll be taking that vehicles into their our garages. We'll be working on it, and then we'll give them their vehicle on their preferred location again, maybe at that house wherever they please. So all in all, we are trying to make an Uber for garage industry. So as far we secured 20 lakh funding on our first round, and we are looking for expanding this year now on. A good question from Priyanka Jain. She asks, should we go for a startup for a company? This really depends. What problems are you solving? Are you solving a problem, or are you just working for a previously defined clientship? See, for example that I gave just now, Aapka Garage, I needed to create a startup. A company wouldn't be able to address problems at that minute level. And on the other side, I also build apps for clients. I also, as I said, have multiple applications of my own on the Play Store. I like making software. So for that, I founded a company, Multiverse Software. So I could take the software projects and deliver them to the clients at the desired time. So for that, I needed to make a company, while for the Aapka Garage product, I needed to make a startup. Okay, great question from Priyanka Jain. Is it important to have IT technical knowledge for a startup? I would say that yes, it is very important to have technical knowledge. If you are from a technical background, it is the best case scenario you can be, because as I said, that online presence is very, very important at this stage. And once you are able to find and build your startup on the web very firmly, then you will have absolutely no problems in scaling. So generally startups start with 1 or 2 person, a group of small people that won't be taking profits and will be reinvesting in the company. At that point, it is very important that you don't that you keep your hires very limited. And then at that point of time, it will be very useful if you have a technical background, because you'll not have to hire anyone to, let's say, build a website or make your app or create a social media campaign or manage your ad assets. So it is very important. So Ryan International School Faridabad asks, are there any physical resources needed for a startup? So it is a very great question. I would say that apart from a laptop, a working internet, you need nothing. You need absolutely nothing to create and then scale your startups. And and technically speaking, to register a company, you will need an office, and that's it. So if you have a free office of a relative, of a free house of a relative, you can just for firstly registration purposes, you can use that, and then after that you can scale. But if you are thinking about investing, if you are thinking about physical resources, I would say that no startups require minimal physical resources. You just need enough to work on it. You just need enough to make your initial product and sell them to users. Okay, it has been a blast. Thanks for being a wonderful audience. If you have more questions, you can get them clarified at the Univariety platform. You can connect with me and other alumni here. I highly recommend you to make the most of alumni guidance available at your schools through Univariety, and get in touch with your seniors today. Thanks.